Hello, hello, it's Rachel. I have hamsters, and today I'm going to be talking a lot about diatomaceous earth and how it's become a big part of my hamster care routine, and why I think I'm going to start recommending it as something that hamster owners should just have on hand and understand what it is and how to use it because I've, yeah, it's been quite a journey, and I've been using it a lot in my fight against mites, and I think it would have been helpful to have had previously and sort of know these preventative measures so that if I do adopt another hamster, which surely I will, I can do certain things to isolate the hamster and ensure that if the hamster does have mites, like these type of mites that can spread, I can isolate the mites and combat them without the mites spreading to all my other things or my other hamsters. So a little bit about diatomaceous earth because I was like, what is this stuff? I don't understand. So it's basically the fossilized remains of little aquatic organisms called diatoms. And basically over time, their remains have kind of broken up and you can find it in the sediment of rivers and streams and lakes and oceans. It's basically a silica kind of thing. So similar to sand or quartz or something like that. Similar, I guess, makeup of mineral. But what is different about it is it's basically very sharp. It's like tiny, tiny little pieces of glass. And that's the part that's actually really dangerous to bugs. So it's not poisonous in and of itself. It's just this very fine powder that if you looked at it in a microscope, it's like little pieces of glass that mites, anything crawling that can't fly over it, it will puncture their exoskeleton and kill them. So what's cool is it works great against mites, these tropical rat mites that I believe that's what I have, or whatever mite. It works against ants and spiders, basically anything that can't like fly over this stuff. So there are many types of diatomaceous earth and formulations, and you don't just have to use it as an insecticide. It's been used in many, many ways. Sometimes it's used to polish something. So it's been used in toothpaste. Let's see here. I'm actually reading from a National Pesticide Information Center sheet. Yeah, toothpaste, polishing. There's all sorts of products that have it in there. Skincare products, foods, beverages. It's also used in water filtration because it's very fine, so it can filter out any impurities. And the FDA generally lists it as safe, right? So there are different types of diatomaceous earth. There's food-grade diatomaceous earth, and then there's the one that's sort of labeled as a pesticide. The food-grade ones are purified. And sometimes they're used as anti-caking materials in like feed for livestock or as a clarifier for wine or beer. I don't fully understand what this means, but I would say in general, if you're going to use diatomaceous earth inside your home, I would go for the food grade one, obviously, just to avoid any additional additives that might be in the one that is for outside. Although either way, the outside one is still an organic substance. It's not supposed to be a chemical pesticide. Technically, I don't think it's really supposed to be bad for you. But at least the food grade one is, a little bit safer, I would say. So safe, you have to take within context. So it is a really fine dust. And when you use it, you'll want to use a good mask. So I've been using an N95 mask that like fits my face really well. I've also been using long kitchen gloves and safety goggles. The reason for this is because the fine dust gets in the air. Even if you can't see it, it's there. And you'll breathe it in. It'll get in your eyes. It can also irritate your skin because, like I said, it's a very fine, like tiny, tiny shards of glass. It doesn't mean that if you touch it, you're going to have a million cuts all over your hands. I mean, in fact, it gets on my hands all the time and I just wash it off. But you want to try to avoid inhaling it and try to avoid touching it. So it's not going to kill you, but whatever you can do to minimize your direct contact with it is better than just going in without any protection at all. So as I said, you'll want to use food grade diatomaceous earth. And the other tip I would say is one of the food grade diatomaceous earth packages that I purchased, I believe from Home Depot, I got with this little puffer thing. It's like looks like a little accordion. My sister said it reminded her of the thing, like the smoke thing beekeepers use. So basically you put some of the diatomaceous earth in this puffer, and then you can kind of use it to puff the powder into, I basically used it along the edges of the room where the hamsters had been living. And then also I found a crack in my windowsill, kind of like underneath it. So I puffed it in there. Basically, I put it like all along the edges of the room and like on the edges of the carpet, kind of like surrounding the room. And I will say the puffer did emit a lot of dust in the air. So after I did that, I took my mask off and I was in the room for a little bit, and then I could feel it in my lungs. I was like, oh, why did I do that? That was silly. Definitely when you do this, don't be in the room for like an hour, let the dust settle. I'm kind of on the edge of like, now that I've really puffed it into the corners, I think I'm going to vacuum up the excess in a few days because I don't really want to be around it, breathing it in all the time. But I think having it like inside that crack in the carpet where the carpet meets the wall or like underneath the crown molding is a really important place to have it. I also put it inside the closet where I keep a lot of the hamster stuff just to like make sure that now that everything is disinfected, once I bring back the hamster stuff into that closet, it doesn't get re-mited, right? So definitely get the puffer, definitely wear protection, and definitely stay out of the room. A few other things I realized that are really helpful. Initially, I kept my hamsters in the hamster room, which is also my office. So initially, I put them in their bins. I put the Vaseline along the top edge, and then I just kind of put them on top of their old cages because I didn't know where to put them. And I realized that it's actually like having this room where I'm working, my hamsters are, and also is the place where the mites were, was too much in one space. And it was getting difficult for me because I needed to actually like really deep clean this room. And it was really hard to do because my hamsters were in here. I tried covering them with like a blanket while I was vacuuming, but then I thought, I don't know, like this is a really fine dust. They certainly, I was like, I know it's not great for them to breathe. I definitely don't want to cause them any distress. But if it's not bothering me, is it bothering them? I don't know. And then I had a lot of like, oh, maybe I'm hurting them. So eventually I decided the best way to deal with this, and I think what I'll do in the future is isolate the hamsters in the bin, put the Vaseline along the top edge so you know they're not going to come out or the mites won't escape a bin, and then relocate your hamsters somewhere else. So I put them in another room. And then now I've been using, like on the weekends, the last couple weekends, and especially this most recent weekend, it's Monday now. I did the little puffer all along the corners. I did a lot of vacuuming in here. And then because it's my office, I just didn't really go in here for the remainder of the weekend. That being said, I do think I've come up with some strategies of what I'll do next time I get a new hamster. So next time I get a new hamster, what I'm going to do is put it in a separate room from my current hamsters. And that's something I usually do anyway. I did that with Thor. Thor did not live in the same room as Maurice for a month. And yet still this happened. But and I still don't know if they came from Thor. So, this might be moot, but I will do this from now on, is put them in a bin cage, kind of a minimal setup, which I usually do for a new hamster anyway, because I like to keep an eye on them. Put Vaseline along the top edge of the bin. And then maybe I'll put them in a room where I've already kind of put diatomaceous earth around the corners of the room. And although if you have the Vaseline, to be honest, you should be good. But, it's complicated because also after a week or two or monitoring their behavior, you want to get them out. And I think that's really what happened. Again, I don't know. But I was starting to get Thor out. He's pretty outgoing. I can't quite tell what his vibe is, and now I've sort of stopped interacting with him as much, but he doesn't really like being touched. That seems pretty traumatic to him, but he's definitely like, when he hears me, he comes out, he's looking for me. He takes food from my hands very easily. There's no hesitation there. I don't know if he might be a little bit aggressive. I was using leather gloves a little bit while handling him, and he definitely is very bitey towards the gloves, but I don't know if that's just because they're leather gloves and it's sort of like nice to bite. He hasn't attacked my hand before, or maybe he got excited about food and he sort of missed, but I couldn't quite tell if it was like on purpose or what was going on. And then now I've just been like leaving both hamsters alone because, I'm trying not to get any more mite bites. But that is tough because I really didn't see any mites on him. But I think in the future, maybe I'll do like 2 weeks in a bin and then before I interact with them and then like give them a new setup and really evaluate the bedding and make sure I don't see any mites. Some mites you just can't see. In this case, I could see them kind of, but in the worst cage, I only ever saw 2 mites. I did not see an outbreak. So again, who knows? And then I think the way I'm enjoying, or the way I'm going to continue doing cage cleans with them, back to, non-preventative measures. So this week will be their second dose treatment. So they both got their first Revolution dose 2 weeks ago, and this week they're going to get another dose. So I'm going to put them in a new bin. One of the recommendations is that you take them out and put them in little travel carriers for about an hour and let the mites fall off of them before you put them in a new bin. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then rather than try, I feel like it's going to be kind of a rush to get to put them in these new bins or in these travel carriers and clean out their bins, totally disinfect them and then reset them up. Feels like that might be hard to do all at once, especially when you have a job and a life and other things going on. So what I'm going to do is just set up new bins for them and have them ready to go. And then that way I can take my time cleaning the old bins. And as long as there's Vaseline along the top edge, we shouldn't have any mites that escape. So if I take a few days to really fully clean it, it should be okay, I think. And because, I like to like spray it with a Lysol and then I bring it in the shower and I rinse it off and then I dry it and it's a whole thing. Okay, so I had to re-record this part because then someone started mowing their lawn, like the loudest mowing I've ever experienced. And I went back and listened. I was like, oh, it's too loud. This is really annoying. It was like 20 minutes of loud mowing. Anyway, so what I'm going to do this week to kind of ease the process of constantly changing the bins to get rid of the mites is I'm going to I have, right now they're in 200 quart bins, but I also have 100 quart bins. So I'm going to set up the 100 quart bins for them. Start with first things first, start with the Vaseline so mites can't get in. And then it'll be a little bit minimal, right, with bedding, probably half hemp bedding and half paper bedding and cardboard hides. And all of that will be fresh because I'm going to chuck the old stuff. And then for sand baths, I'm going to wash their sand. Actually, I've already done this. So I have a bunch of sand that's ready to go. I've washed it. Basically, I like put a thin towel inside a strainer, and then I wash the sand under hot water until it's clean. And then I bake it, and then I wash the dish that it was in. I'm using Pyrex, so it can be like pretty high heat. And so I'm going to set up these new bins for them so they're like super fresh and clean. And I think it'll just be easier to have another bin rather than have to like take them out of their cage, out of their bins, their current bins, put them in these little holding, travel critter keeper kind of things, and then like quickly disinfect everything. It's just too stressful. So I'll have these new bins set up for them, and it's something I can kind of like casually do throughout the week. And I'll just keep doing this every week. I'll probably do it for the next 4 weeks. Basically until the treatment is done. And hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be done. So we will see. I have not been on top of I think the recommended thing is that you are cleaning their bins like every 4 days, basically, and doing this process where you put them in a small carrier, letting the mites fall off of them and then putting them in a clean bin. But I was so busy just trying to deal with the mites, disinfect everything, and get everything put away, because it felt like, okay, what's the purpose of going through all this stuff if the mites are still like in the carpet, in all of my wooden hamster items that were in the room? So I really needed to finish that part and get it like organized and cleaned and like sealed. So that was quite an undertaking, and it's kind of kept me from doing as many cage cleans for them as I would like, but probably it's a little less stressful for them. So, it's sort of like, I don't know, here nor there, but ever since I have finished the disinfecting and gotten them in the bins and done a lot of the diatomaceous earthwork, I haven't gotten a lot of bites. So at least they're not biting me. So I think we're making progress. Woo. Yeah, and from now on, I think something I'm going to do is keep my hamster stuff really minimal. That's like why the stuff that's like easily available. Anything that I'm not using, I'm going to keep stored, in these. I put basically in. I bought these really large clear plastic bags, like garbage bags from Home Depot. And after I baked the wooden items, I like stacked them inside these plastic bags and like tied them shut and then put them inside a plastic bin. And I'm going to keep everything that way if it's not in use. And that way I don't have to like, in the past I had everything in my closet. It was so nice. It's nice to look at all this stuff, but then you have to worry about it if you do have a mite outbreak of like, oh, well, I probably need to disinfect this too because the mites crawl, and like, what if they're in this wood or they laid eggs, whatever. So from here on out, I'm going to be very clean with my hamster stuff. And hopefully it means that if I do get mites again, if I keep having hamsters, I'm sure something will happen in the future. It's not the crazy outbreak like it was. So if you are wondering what products I'm talking about, I am also blogging about this on my website. So I will put links to products on my website. And then eventually I will do more of a formal post on my website so that if someone has mites, they can like Google it and hopefully it'll pop up for them and they'll have the information for them right there of like what they should do and the steps. Because, my vet, it took me 5 days to see my vet. So it's like I needed to do something right away. By the time I saw my vet and then got them treated, it's like 5 days later. It's hard to wait 5 days when you have bugs literally crawling all over you and biting you. It's pretty awful. And awful for your hamster too, as well, not just you. And there's just even my vet, other than giving them the Revolution and recommending cage cleans, like I don't think they told me a lot of the other stuff that I sort of learned from other hamster owners about the diatomaceous earth and the Vaseline along the top edge of the bin. And that all I got from kind of like talking to different people and different rescues who dealt with this. So I did have to kind of like do a lot of digging. And I think it'd be great if there was like one place that had the information. Although there's always hamster forums, hamster groups on Facebook who are very helpful. So if something happens, reach out, ask questions. You can always reach out to me too, and I will answer if I can. But that is really my goal of doing these podcasts and videos. And my website is just like sharing what I'm learning so that we can all be better hamster owners together. Yeah, so that's about all I have to say this week about my fight against mites. And it's a bummer because I like in the last couple of weeks, I was asked if I could take in fosters and take care of someone else's elderly robo. And I just had to say no because like, I just didn't know how to deal with that kind of stuff and the mites. And maybe in the future I will be able to deal with it, which would be great. But we'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah, so hopefully we're coming to the end of this, and I would love to hear from you guys. Those of you who are listening, if you have topics you'd like me to cover. I was actually thinking I would love to do some interviews with like maybe some hamster breeders, or maybe some of you out there, talk about how you got into this, what you love about it, some of your experiences thus far. So if you have any ideas or you'd like to come on the podcast, send me an email. I'm rachelgothamsters@gmail.com. Sorry, it was backwards. And yeah, or whatever, you can just email me and tell me your thoughts. Probably I get a couple emails a month that are really exciting for me. Sometimes it's someone just like asking for advice or saying thank you or unsure where to get certain information. And it just makes my heart so happy that my website or my videos or maybe even this podcast one day is helpful to someone, because that's really the reason I do it. So, and to meet and connect with all of you, it's been really fun. Yeah, it's like a wonderful community. So thank you to all of you who've reached out and left comments for me or whatever you've done. It's really nice. And I hope to get to talk to you guys more. So I hope you're all having a wonderful hamster week, hopefully not dealing with mites. But if you do, hopefully this has helped you. And I will see you in my next video, podcast, blog post, whatever it is. I'll see you soon. Okay, bye.